Patrick, I think we're on the wrong...
Welcome again, this time in Dyson Sphere Program, Factorio in 3D. Today we'll be strict to one challenge. We won't leave first planet, but it can't be done without some settings changes. Still, we will see if it is actually possible to beat Dyson Sphere Program only from first planet. But let's slow the story and again start simple, this time with mining trees and bushes, to use them as fuel in my personal generator and keep my mech running. Not so long later, when I mined small rock, we got first and most valuable material, titanium, but about this later. With stable power in core we could start mining real ores, starting with copper. As we played kind of a death world, as fast as we can we need to get some defenses from Tech 3. To get to those turrets we needed a little bit of copper and iron, so for the first few minutes I ran in between iron and copper deposits, mining them and smelting to be able to craft basic research items. With basic resources I got into first researches, which was electromagnetism, taking only 10 magnets, and not so long later we got wind turbines, power poles and miners. Then, when still doing the same mining loop, I unlocked first science pack, which here is called Matrix. Yet again, my personal name for it is Blue Cube, and for the first time I placed a wind turbine, getting a brilliant milestone. For now, we can't really use cubes to research, so I fastly done the basic researches like smelters and assembling machines. Then, with before made 20 cubes, I researched turrets, and finally we could start making proper factory on our one and only planet. So I get into making automation of sorters and belts. 4 assemblers and 3 smelters gives us more than enough of those items to build early base. In this game we don't make any type of pollution, but it doesn't mean enemies won't attack us. They are concerned by our energy production and consumption. So not long after making first automations, we were attacked with small unit of 6 drones, which for now isn't a big deal. For now. Coal for the reactor. Then I followed automating stuff by creating factory of blue matrices. I started from the end by placing 3 assemblers for copper rings and circuits, as they share one ingredient, copper plates, which will flow on the inside belt. At the end of production I made small buffer and placed labs to make and use blue cubes. With proper setup made, I got to last thing, smelters, 6 for iron rings, 6 for copper plates and 4 for iron plates, connected raw ores, and we had a production of blue cubes. But as you could see by orange color, we are lacking power, what will be a recurring problem. So I placed more turbines and started researching coal power. Once I unlocked it, Dark Fog didn't give me a breath by constantly attacking wind turbines. And of course, I did not place more turrets. Why the hell would I need them? Then I researched second most valuable resource, silicon, and started preparing a crafting side of it. With smelting 10 stone we get 1 silicon ore, and 2 of those gives us 1 silicon plate, but at least we have an artificial way of obtaining it. Next was a small change of our lab setup. Now we'll have 1 row of them for cubes crafting and 1 for consuming those cubes and researching stuff. And in the meantime I unlocked flying, faster way of moving, but uses more energy from core. With more labs you have increased energy usage, so Dark Fog attacked once again, focusing our lovely wind turbines. Not cool. Also we researched red cubes. Energy matrix requires 2 materials, graphite, which is just smelted coal, easy, and hydrogen, a product of oil raffination, not that easy. I placed oil drill and created small processing of it. 2 middle belts are for oil and hydrogen, and the belts on the sides are for refined oil, which for now is useless. Both of those products will store for now in fluid tanks. With oil processing our power generation wasn't enough. Again. So I remembered about coal generators and assigned a whole coal patch for the use of them, creating medium power plant for that time. In close position of hydrogen production I started working on red cubes. Those are made really slow, so I placed bigger lab tower, laid down belts and started producing red cubes. With red matrix, bunch of awesome tech is right around the corner. I set up the cubes starting with magnetic levitation, signal towers, processors and finally logistics system. But all of this caused the biggest enemy attack yet. Slowly this is getting out of hand. So what I have done? Definitely didn't make missile turrets. Why I should do it now? But placed more and more normal turrets. Clever me. With this temporary solution, I prepared a flat surface for actual defense setup. I started with just a row of gun turrets and signal tower, which is quite handy, as it lures enemies to attack it first. So theoretically, Dark Fog will first attack it and gun turret will destroy them before they destroy signal tower. But this isn't enough, we needed more. So I added another row of turrets. Now you may be wondering why I also placed those grey castle-like looking buildings. They serve two key roles. First is auto-repairing damaged buildings, and second, most crucial, collecting materials dropped by Dark Fog drones. And with lots of items, we needed a place to store them. So I got into creating one. Just rows of chests, sorters and splitters with filter settings will do this job perfectly. But then it happened. The line wasn't working. Half of the attack went not for the signal tower, but for our base. So after I dealt with them, I placed one more signal tower. Maybe this solves the issue. We were lacking hydrogen for red cubes, and problem was from not fast enough oil cracking. So instead of building more refineries and connecting more oil patches, which anyone would do in this situation, I took a different path. Proliferation. This spray thing, crafted from coal, when sprayed on any item can speed up machine, or serve like a productivity module. So, to boost hydrogen crafting, I use it there, and switch the refineries to work faster. Previously, I researched logistic network, and it is time to use it. I crafted and placed distributors on chests in storage, and with the use of them, automated their crafting, as I have bigger plans to use them later. After those fidget spinners started flying over my base, Dark Fog attacked with the biggest army yet. Fight was tough, and the defenses weren't that efficient as I wanted, but at least this time they didn't destroy any part of Factory. With partially secured base, I dived into Tech 3 and researched titanium smelting and solar power, which we would never be using. The attacks were constant, bigger and harder to face, so finally it was time for the big guy to come in, missile turrets. I started them with preparing ammo production, using not only raw materials but also items from our war storage, and in no time we had small production of rockets, which I fastly connected to missile turrets, just in time for another attack. But you may be thinking, why I placed them so far from defense line? The answer is simple, they have range to shoot wherever is signal tower, as long as it is powered, and as you can see they do a wonderful job in defending this factory. Yet having missile turrets doesn't let us not use gun turrets. So I expanded whole defense line, getting closer and closer to North Pole. And I finished it just in time to see how great it works, now when we use both turrets. Everything has a cost. More turrets require more energy, so I placed more and more wind turbines, and additional 6 coal generators. With expanded power potential, I got into researching planetary logistics, which is really energy demanding. Also with more power, I once again expanded defense line, at one point even curving, as more and more drones started going down there. As we had small production and we only use it for oil, I choose to also do it for cubes. Why not to have more science from less science for free? After that, I placed more missile turrets to finally end upgrading defenses, and as I finished, they came really handy, as Dark Fog carried attack once again, but they stood no chance to my protection system. Then I got my hands on crucial titanium crystal tech, key component for yellow cubes, which I also started researching. First thing to do next was automating belts tier 3. Directly crafting gears to belt assembler and assembler for engines gave me starting point, and with just 2 materials being transported by spinners we had a good start. Then, next to correct assembler, I placed smelters for copper and iron plates and magnets. Connected raw ores and production of belts started flawlessly. Then I did similar work on sorters, and after some copper ore belts shenanigans we also had automated them. With belts production, I went into upgrading them in storage, as we were getting more and more items. 6 items per second for belts tier 1 wasn't enough there, and also changed them in defense line, to transport all debris faster. Near our labs, I started working on last item needed to craft planetary logistics station, particle containers, and after a while, I could place my first planetary hub, where I started loading refined oil. As you could see before, for both belts and containers we were using graphene, but we hadn't any production of it, and just relied on debris. It had to change now. To make graphene we need 2 things. graphite, which is really easy, and sulfuric acid, which is the reverse of easy, as we need to combine refined oil, water and stone for some reason. But actually, not so long after, we had our own graphene production. Then we had the biggest attack yet. More than 200 drones strike defense line and breached it, destroying one signal tower. The reason why it happened is our beloved power, so more turbines were required to be placed as soon as possible. When doing that, I unlocked solar sails, first Dyson Sphere component, but I totally ignored that and went back to my lovely wind turbines. After further evaluation of my base, I came to thought that our current defense line is in the wrong spot. We were constantly attacked, so why not take this war to enemy territory? I started with this idea by 2 straight line of gun turrets, connected ammo from main base and dragged debris belt to storage. Then I built missile turrets closer to gun turrets, as missiles flew for too long from the other side of the planet, and by this drones were able to destroy 1 or 2 gun turrets per attack. But after missile turrets started shooting, drones once again stood no chance to them. It worked wonderfully, so I demolished it. Why? Because it was too close to enemy base, and we needed to move it a little lower. But to do this, I had to empty the base from all materials from drones. This was taking so long that I started losing my mind, to the point that I started hiding behind the trees. Remember all, always to build anything you want in correct place, and not waste 3 hours just to destroy your work to start all over again. Sorry for that. This time I blueprinted it to not to build it manually, so at least it was quicker. But dark fog wasn't waiting for construction to end, and before I connected power, I lost like 25% of defenses. But as soon as I connected power, the attack was quickly ended. As always, after expanding defenses, we have power problems, so I went to place more wind turbines. At this point, I think that at least 25% of the planet is covered just by them. With more power, I went into filling up ocean with foundations, preparing new place for basic production lines, especially leaving this one water spot for convenience. We are not leaving any spots. This joke is so cringe that I won't be able to sleep for really long. Then in preparation, I made small assembler crafter with the help of fidget spinners, and quickly started main factory from processors crafting. Key component for most useful items. The first off were drones and hats for them, which we'll use very often for all production lines, because it is the easiest way to automate most craftings. After making it, I should go further, but I was distracted by
proliferation.
It is time to make it great again. Proliferation is made almost only from coal, so I dedicated entire coal patch for it, and placed as much miners as possible. Then, with the use of math, I placed blue assemblers to craft proliferation MK1. With proliferation comes interesting fact: we can proliferate proliferation, and then it gives more sprays to proliferate other things. In which proliferators? Yeah, I know, Inception. So I made a place before proliferation MK2 crafting to proliferate proliferation MK1. For MK1 we just use coal, but for MK2 we need diamonds. But those are also made from coal, so no need for more resources. Which is why I made 2 smelting stacks, for both graphite and diamonds. Then I connected outcoming belt to all spray coaters, which wasn't easy, so in the end I used coarse belt waving to skip all problems. The last thing to do was connecting power, and as you could see before, I didn't place any power poles. So angrily, I blueprinted furnaces and moved them lower, to place poles and power all machines. But before starting production, last one fact: when items are sprayed, the machines where they are used consumes more power. So I went this time not to place turbines but more coal generators. And with the more power, I connected this production to main grid, and after few seconds we were supplied with proliferated proliferation MK2. I tried to connect it to main bus using fidget spinners, but they hadn't enough range, so I chose to do it by planetary logistic, to transport it on long distances, and then supplying factories by spinners. With them in factory, I could connect them to processors production, and get as much as we could for same price. After that, I checked how much of precious titanium substrate we have. Awesome, and I deconstructed previous defense line. Then I went into maintenance of base, starting with placing provider chests with proliferation and connecting it to labs to get plus 20% more of every cube. And I redesigned graphite production for red cubes, and also in same place I made diamond smelter for future yellow cubes crafting. And as future is now, I went into preparing this production, also with the use of proliferation. And with titanium crystals from main storage, I started producing first structure matrix. With them, I started researching titanium alloy, interstellar logistics system and interstellar power transmission. As we can't only rely on crystals from dark fog, I prepared small titanium crystal production, also with proliferation. But I did not automate titanium here, as not to use all of it, and I placed more labs that made red cubes, because we are short on them in labs. I looked at processors production, and it wasn't working, as we were lacking microcrystalline components. Yeah, blue shit. So I got into making production of them. With same number of assemblers as processors and proliferation, I made its own production, and processors could start be produced again. With production set, I went back into setting research queue, starting with orbital collectors, which we'll talk about later, ray receivers, mech core level 3, and logistic carrier capacity. But for this blue thing for processors we needed silicon, which actually we can craft. So I got into it with clean stone mine, built huge stone smelter to get silicon ore and smelter for that ore, and stared as we get more and more free silicon plates. Next, I went back to titanium crystal production to make direct organic crystal crafting, which apparently is complicated, as we need water, which is the easiest one on the list. Second is refined oil, and third is plastic, and plastic needs more refined oil plus graphite. Luckily, we had most of those items near desired place, so I just placed 4 chemical plants for crystals and few for plastic, connected all the resources for all production lines and made small buffer for plastic to firstly use this from main storage. And with this huge buff to titanium crystals, we speeded up research queue. The second part of processors are circuit boards, which we also took from storage, but we needed more. So again, 11 assemblers, bells, sorters, proliferation and chests with logistic spinners, to maintain processor production for all costs. With all of those production lines, for I don't even know how many times I have done this already, I expanded our power generation by building another stack of thermal plants, and I placed additional wind turbines, going closer and closer to 50% coverage of the planet with them. I needed titanium alloy, and I thought the only way of getting it is from standard recipe, so I prepared small setup and used like 900 titanium plates that could go for titanium crystals. And as it turned out, we actually do get titanium alloy from dark fog, and this was my biggest mistake in this entire run. Trying to forget that, I went into dealing with another problem, which was the lack of iron plates. So I started solving it by connecting all of my first ore patches to the planetary logistic, making it not only available on whole planet, but also like a buffer for those production lines there. Then, with the use of my blueprint, I quickly constructed one big iron smelter, connected ore via planetary logistic, and at the end of it I placed chest and put on it hat to connect it to the spinner network. I couldn't stand the previous loss of titanium plates, so I went into mining all small, medium and big rocks on my planet, as they have a chance to drop titanium ore. Rock, 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 rock. Now I feel like one of the biggest Factorio YouTubers, which is actually known for mining rocks, and only rocks. After 2 hours of constant mining, I had a full inventory of titanium ore, and I went back to smelt it, with of course the use of proliferation, to get as much plates as possible. I still hoped that it will give me lots of titanium, which now I see it was just my delusions. When I woke up from this madness, I jumped back into normal work, starting from making green engines production, in same pattern as the other productions. And in between of this work, I unlocked another expensive material, carbon nanotube, that also takes titanium to be made, but for now, I won't put any titanium plates into it. I got my 565 plates from mining rocks and placed them in titanium crystal production. And to finally solve energy problems, I started researching fusion power. Then I crafted my first orbital collector, and now it is time to talk more about them. In production of fusion fuel we need deuterium, which can be made from hydrogen, but we don't have enough of it, and one and the only place where you have infinite and easy access to it are gas giants. As you could see, I traveled to the nearest one to me, and if anyone will tell me that I broke rules of run here, I will say that I didn't, as first of all I'm not landing on any other planet, as gas giants aren't planets, and even if you consider them like planets, I'm still floating over them. not landing on its surface. Clearing that, now we have easy access to free hydrogen, and additionally another great material, fire ice, and about it later. I came back and started making last basic items, starting from similar gear factory, and below them normal engines production, and below those copper magnets production, finishing most basic crafting components. Trying to organize my base, I deconstructed first coal power plant and coal mine, and started rebuilding it in better way, starting from effective miner setup to gain as much coal as we could. On the way to planetary logistic, I made small combustion unit production, and the whole connection to the hub is to support other coal power plants on the surface. With organizing also comes redesigning, so I destroyed previous belt and sorter productions, and started again from sorters. 3 assemblers plus chests around them with logistic connections for item transportation, and in no time it was done. Similar attitude for belts, also 3 machines and chests with spinners, and the whole production started making most useful items. Then I went back to main production, and with the help of aerial design I fastly made a particle container production for absolutely no reason, as we won't use it anywhere. Near our main storage I placed analysis base, which can control drops from dark fog, and after short thoughts I turned off some of them as part of a test to check if it gives us more titanium plates, alloy crystals and nanotubes. In the meantime, I got back to our smelters. I copied already working iron smelter, placed it and changed recipe to copper plates, and the same I did to make magnet smelter. All of them had a logistic bot connection at the end to supply the whole factory. With available fire ice from orbital collectors, it was time to start using it. I started designing processing of it, as it gives 2 awesome materials, hydrogen and carbon fiber, few chemical plants, sorters sorting outputs, and connection to interstellar logistic hub, and we could start production by ordering fire ice from space. And as production started, I just made sure that we have carbon fibers connected to logistic network via spinners. After that I went into AFKing for 3 hours, just to grind titanium assets, and this is what we got in this time period. Right away I took crystals and plates and threw them to make more yellow cubes. During these 3 hours I used energy exchangers to boost power consumption, and with that dark fork attacks were more frequent, which gave us more loot. Also for those 3 hours I seen that ammo production isn't enough. Therefore, with the use of planetary hub I constructed this ammo crafting, making missiles, bullets and new jamming capsules in one build. And with bigger ammo supply I thought about making final defense design to unleash power from all available turrets. I started building it similarly to previous one, with 2 rows of gun turrets. Then I placed 2 jammer towers at corners. This one slows enemies when supplied with jamming capsules. In between I placed laser turrets, and in the middle I put signal tower and power poles. Then quickly prepared space for it and started building there, this time without accidents, and connected ammo via planetary logistic, and watched how ultimate war machine protects me from dark fog. As always with more turrets, power is dying. Again I placed lots of thermal plants near fire ice processing. Now I'm preparing all necessary things to rebuild sciences, therefore I jumped into making quantum cables, similarly to all other builds. And with them on board, I destroyed all lab setups and all other craftings that were making all those cubes, as this space will be much more occupied with new science builds. Now we'll depend only on fidget spinners. I started with blue cubes, by chests for both inputs and output. On the output belt I put sprayers to proliferate sciences as soon as they will be crafted, and I stacked lots of labs on top of each other to make production faster. Next were red cubes, and using same style by making few labs, belt with hydrogen from refineries and also sprayed just after making. Yellow cubes, you know the drill, new matrix, same task, all materials via bots, and with it we have 3 most basic cubes. Now place to actually use them. 1 line of lab towers of 3, with small space in between for future, belts and sorters, move to correct spot, and 6 chests, each of them for 1 of cubes, all transported using spinners. With all of that work done, I once again went into AFKing. Additional 3 hours, and we got lots of good stuff. Also, in this time we made Dark Fog Hive really angry, to the point that they sent space attack at us, but as soon as they arrived they were demolished by pure power of orbital rockets. Then I got back to sciences, and prepared purple cube crafting, this time a little bit different, as it is really slow, so more labs were necessary. But the rest was the same, and not so long after we also had the production of those. Research speed was slow, So to solve this, I just maxed the vertical building limit, and with it we now research faster. But the power is dying again. Firstly, I thought that this is a small problem, and I flew to place more thermal plants, but the problem still wasn't solved. Why? Now we don't have enough coal to sustain generators, so I connected more of it to planetary hubs. But it still wasn't enough, so my beloved wind turbines had to come in, solving blackout, for now at least. With secured power, I went into another 2-hour grind of titanium, and used whole chest of it for titanium crystals, accelerating yellow cubes crafting. In the meantime, I discovered a mystery dark fog research that took pyramids from dark fog drones. I got necessary item and queue it to research and freely finish it in no time. Not so long after, I got my hands on strange matter research, another crucial material, and as soon as I unlocked it, I got it from dark fog debris, which was really surprising. At least for 15 hours now I was collecting lots of hydrogen fuel rods from debris, and it was time to proliferate it, as this process will give us more power from less power, and use it to boost energy production in entire base. Then I went back to main production place and started preparing another lines. First, solar sails. Those are essential material to create Dyson Swarm, so I will start stockpiling it right now. It takes graphene, which is made from fire ice, and photon combiners that we have plenty in water storage, so in no time it could start working. Next, quantum processors. They will be made above sails. I wanted to make it the same size as every other build, but it would be definitely too much, so I shrinked it, and as it turned out later, this whole build was unnecessary, because we got so much of them just from dark fog. I went back to Ammo Forge and started working on upgrades of missiles, which I unlocked recently. They take previous missiles, stronger explosives, processors and thrusters, and in return they deal more damage and have more missiles in one pack. With upgraded ammo, I unlocked gravity wave refraction and replenished my personal fuel with proliferated deuterium fuel rods that I got from dark fog. You should always
proliferation
your personal fuel, as it not only burns slower but also has more energy potential. With just unlocked gravity lenses for the last time, I went to main production center and prepared small crafting of them. The production is easy, just 4 diamonds and 1 strange matter, all directly from dark fog debris. Just above green eggs I made small production of plane filters, a component for quantum processors, and with it the production center was finished. For few other recipes we needed carbon nanotube, so next to fire ice processing I built the production of them. It takes only graphene from fire ice and titanium plates that we will independently put in chest. All of this will be sprayed with proliferation, and products will go to Interstellar Hub for us to have access to it all over the planet. Then I quickly prepared few assemblers MK3 and finally started making deuterium fuel rod production, also depending on fidget spinners, and in no time production started making precious fuel. This supply of fuel gives us opportunity to make fusion power plant, so I went near Arctic Cycle and started building deuterium power plant. First foundations, then reactors. Lots of reactors. And when I was doing it, we also unlocked last cube, Gravity Matrix. Not thinking about it for now, I went back to place belts and sorters. With it, I could start fusion reactors, and watched how we get lots and lots of power. With just unlocked green cubes, this time I wasn't waiting long, and I got to creating production of them. As Gravity Matrix crafting is a really slow process, I prepared new labs from this mystery dark fog research, which are 2 times faster than normal labs. Green cubes takes just quantum processors and gravity lenses, all of which we already have in hundreds, so I placed 2 towers of labs, put requester chests, and we got first gravity matrices. We need extremely much of deuterium to maintain power, so I had to think about producing it, starting from preparing flat surface. When I was thinking which way of getting deuterium will be the best, I went back home and expanded bullets production. We can make better bullets, as it requires titanium plates, but more of copper ones should be enough. Now let's come back to deuterium. Firstly, I tried using fractionators. This machine takes hydrogen, and with 1% chance makes deuterium. If deuterium isn't made, it gives back hydrogen. This process can be enhanced by proliferation, that changes chances to 1.5%. This way is superior, but requires more machines, more time and more power, making it way less sustainable for us. Second way would be mining gas giants that have deuterium, but it would take me years to get to nearest system with this type of giant, so that's out too. I landed with the easiest option, yet the most inefficient. With the use of miniature particle colliders, from 2 pieces of hydrogen we get 1 deuterium. This is the easiest one to set up, as we only will use it to make fuel rods. Plus, we have abundance of hydrogen. It will sell for us well. The processing started flawlessly, and with connection to planetary logistic, we can have it wherever we want. But before I was able to connect it to fuel production, I spotted major problem. We weren't crafting enough missiles. That was really problematic, as the whole defense system relied on rocket turrets. When I was troubleshooting missiles production, I started researching Miner Mk2, and in between unlocked it. This will be a game changer, but about this later. The problem were explosives. We weren't getting enough from Dark Fog drones, so near fusion power plant I built production of it. Explosives are made in chemical plants, from combustion units, plastic and sulfuric acid, so it wasn't that hard to enable this production. Surprisingly, I got a rare achievement, telling us that our war is quite serious. 360 bullets per minute isn't that little. With that in mind, I choose to finally master missiles. Here, as most things in this game, when proliferated, items becomes better in every way. This time missiles will have more missiles in missiles, for free, just for the cost of needing more power. For really long I was trying to squeeze counter as much as possible, but after frustrating 2 minutes I gave up and just made splitter and long belt to spray counter. Coming back to those miners Mk2, I crafted few of them by hand and started placing all over our patches. They have huge coverage and can be overclocked to 300% speed. Additionally, they have direct connection to planetary logistic, so there was no reason not to use them on all our deposits. After all this other stuff, I remembered that I didn't connect deuterium from production to fuel rods crafting. Then I jumped into automating class 2 key machines, EM rail ejector and rail receivers. Next, I unlocked smelters Mk2 from normal tech and Mk3 from secret dark fog tech, and started researching mesoscopic quantum entanglement. Chemical plants Mk2. With new powerful smelters I started redesigning silicon plate production. I placed this framework 3 more times, and all of them connected to this huge buffer in Interstellar Logistics Station. With silicon ore production, last thing to do was to smelt this ore, so I quickly made it happen, next to the rest of builds. With expanding production comes expanding power, so with prepared before reactors I just connected belt, and watch how we reach whopping 951 megawatts of pure power. We were short on organic crystals, but now we had chemical plants Mk2, so it just took to upgrade old ones for faster production, and build 4 more, just in case the previous number still couldn't make enough. Some time ago, Dark Fog expanded with 5th base. At start it was awesome, more attacks and more items, but now I think we don't need as much as before, so I choose to get rid of the closest one, with the use of signal towers and pure power of missile turrets, in epic battle. Then it was finally time to start with titled Dyson Sphere, by making first Dyson Swarm. To build it we need solar sails in space, and getting those there is possible by shooting them from EM ejectors. So at the second Arctic pole I started building lots of those machines in full circle, transported solar sails via fidget spinners and connected to main power grid, starting the creation of Swarm. When I was resupplying I somehow got first antimatter, endgame material, and it turned out that it is available from Dark Fog, which was really unexpected. But for us doesn't change much, we will have better way of making it. Back to Dyson Sphere, I completed second circle of ejectors, and made second solar sail requester, to accelerate building of Swarm. Those shooters takes lots of power, so for the last time I expanded fusion power plant, reaching 1.6 gigawatts of energy. Now it's time to make a use of Dyson Swarm. With magic ray receivers, we can collect power potential from Swarm and use it for power, boring, or to generate critical photons, which requires hundreds of megawatts. This is why I set up second Swarm orbit, to reach this power demand. Small problem, ray receivers aren't really effective, which can be easily solved by the use of gravity lenses. Those small green eggs have power to not only make receivers work faster, but also to intensify the transmission rate from Swarm. They are consumed, but only 0.1 per minute. So if you like me, you want to be as much productive as possible, so using them wasn't debatable. Critical photons are just collected energy, which you can process to desired antimatter in particle colliders. For 2 photons you get 2 antimatter and 2 hydrogen drops. With them on board, last thing to do was unlock final cube, Universe Matrix. Last project to complete full challenge. Long time ago I specially left room in between of labs, as white cubes require all the other cubes plus antimatter, which is already 6 inputs, so this small space will serve as an output for Universe Matrix. Then I made some Dark Fog labs, to consume white matrices. And as they are very valuable, I also made sure they will be proliferated. With that I placed chests to collect all of them before starting research, and waited 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 to collect 3,334 of them. And when I collected all of them in chests, I started final research, added additional labs to make it faster, and the winning condition was within few minutes reach. After those few minutes, I seen it still too slow, so I made more labs and placed more towers, accelerating research speed to maximum, and not long after the research was completed. As was the entire game, and with it also the challenge. But the last thing was left to do. I jumped into space, fired up my warp engine, and for the first time I landed on a different planet. Never leaving my home again.